Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It is your DC Spotlight for the week of April 30th, 2025. Even though by the time Rocky and I finally get a chance to record this, it's actually well into the month of May, Friday, May 2nd. Happy Free Comic Book Day to all those that celebrate. Hopefully, everybody's going to get a chance to get out to their local comic shop tomorrow. And hey, great to get some free books and see some of what Marvel and DC have planned and pick up some cool independents. But be sure you spend some money too. The comics. I I realize a lot of people don't understand that the comics that the comic shops give out for free are not free. They have to pay for those. It's a way to get them in, and a lot of them have sales, and there's a chance to pick up other books and what have you. But if you just show up and just pick up the free books and leave, and you don't spend any money, that's kind of a dick move. So don't do that. But anyway, it's a smaller DC week, which is good. Again, apologies that this is coming out late. I was traveling for work early in the week, and Rocky had some obligations. I'm actually coming to you from the parking lot of the beautiful Higley Performance Center in Gilbert, Arizona. If anybody knows where that is, it's like almost an hour from my house. My daughter has her last solo dance competition of the year. But being that it's already Friday, and it's a small week, like I said, we wanted to be sure and get this out. It is a fifth Wednesday of the month, so as often is the case, it's specials and annuals and whatever. And honestly, this might be the weakest in terms of quality that we've had since the Absolute Era has started. Not to say anything was inherently bad, but nothing really got me that excited either. So it'll probably go pretty quick, and the majority of this episode may be me asking Rocky about his experiences at the beautiful Calgary Fan Expo
That's
last
right.
weekend, which looked to be a lot of fun. And man, I really wish I could have been there with you. It seems like it was a fantastic time.
Yeah, it was a really fantastic time, and I did exactly what I was really hoping I'd be able to do, and that specifically is I partied with good times with Trevor, uh, Dark Knight Nation, Trevor Linkevich. I always miss his middle name, and Jeremy Adams, and Jeremy. I got a bunch of things signed by him. I happened to be there just when Frank Miller came by Jeremy Adams' booth. Jeremy Adams had a geekasm, and Frank Miller walks up with all his security, and I had the camera, and Jeremy Adams wanted somebody to take a picture, and so I took all the pictures with Jeremy Adams geeking and shaking the hands of Frank Miller. Uh, they went. They had dinner with Frank Miller the night before. All the DC panel. They went out with. They had dinner with Frank, and that was a big deal for them. Obviously, as it would. And apparently, Jeremy made quite the impression on Frank. So he came over and he wanted. Yeah, it was actually Jeremy did quite a bit of the talking, and the other creators there were sort of like giving him a hard time because he did quite a bit of talking. But he made quite an impression apparently on Frank, and he came over and he really liked him, and yeah, it was quite good. And he bought. I think he gave Frank Miller his Flash Gordon trade and a Green Lantern trade or something like that, and yeah, and we had just a really great time. Went out and I got Tim Sheridan and Jeremy Adams asked me what my Wonder Woman pitch was. And so I told them. And they do watch the channel, of course. We know that. They said that before. But they said they know that you don't like Amanda Waller, but they know that I'm bitching about Wonder Woman. So they, like you, said, okay, well, they said, okay, give me your Wonder Woman pitch. And I gave them my Wonder Woman pitch. And then they gave me some harsh truths about dealing with the reality of corporate characters, which I already knew. And they but they humored me very well, and we had a great time. And yeah, it was a lot of stuff. It was a lot of fun and a lot of off the cuff moments too. They're just sharing they gave a lot of stories that they had about their ups and downs of stories that they had that were rejected. I also you told me to ask Jeremy Adams which character he was originally going to use in Hell instead of
Yep.
Gnort. I did ask him
Yep.
that, and he did tell me.
Doesn't that
And
make sense? Wouldn't that have been so much better?
I
Not
I
that we've
think
seen what he's going to do with Nort, but it makes sense, right?
it makes a lot of sense. And I asked, I never, I can't remember what Jeremy told me, but I asked if I could share this story with people, and uh and I got, so I'm not going to, because I can't remember what he told me because we talked about a lot of stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
I like you, I would love to share with maybe one day Jeremy will tell the story about the character that was originally planned to show up in hell. It would have been a very different kind of story, but I agree with you. Would have been it just makes a lot of sense and has a lot more potential.
But
He
you probably also can see why a corporate company would say no to that character.
Well, especially in today's
Yeah,
sort of
I'm not
climate.
saying that's the right decision. I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's the right decision. I'm just saying it doesn't surprise me that they said no.
that's exactly right. Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
it. And there's yeah, there's that. And also hearing their stories about they love Jeff Johns, and the stories they tell working with Jeff, and how passionate he is. And yeah, just hearing
Yeah,
some of the stories. Yeah,
did Tim
go ahead.
mention anything about all the interference he had with Teen Titans Academy?
He did. He certainly did.
Yeah.
He also I extended to him my our compliments on Alan Scott Green Lantern, and he really, it was very interesting. What he said about some of the behind the scenes, and about how much history, and how much history he had studied about some of the scenes that he knew were sort of controversial in comic book cultural circles in that series, and his explanations for the background and the history of it was really good. You could really see the passion. Um, Also, I want to share. I spoke to Jason Aaron, and I told Jason that you and I had a advanced copy, and that we read Absolute Superman #7. Now, of course, we haven't read that yet, as when this comes out. But he was very curious, and I swear to God, I felt sort of humbled, because he looked and he was genuinely interested, and he was he dare I say, it almost seemed like he was a little bit insecure. He's really worried, like, he seemed worried about how his portrayal of Brainiac is. He really seemed to be. He goes, "Do you like it? What do you think?" And he wasn't. He asked the question in a way that he was not expecting obvious praise. Like, he wasn't expecting it. He seemed nervous about what I was going to tell him. And well, I personally, I don't know about you, but I quite enjoyed that issue. And I'm not going to ruin it for people listening, but it's a very, I thought, a very interesting take on Brainiac in the Absolute Universe. I thought it was I thoroughly enjoyed it. And but so when we talked about that, I can't go into details, because obviously I don't want to ruin it for people, that other than to say that read Absolute Superman #7. It'll be interesting to hear other people's opinion on it, but he put a lot of thought into it, a lot of passion in those creators, man. All of them, like Tim Sheridan, Jason Aaron, Jeremy Adams. They all get along so well. Jim Zub routinely popped by and was talking Conan, and taking pot shots at Jeremy for talking too much during the dinner with Frank Miller. And there's there's, there's all
Yeah, Jeremy could be he could be verbose. And as far
yeah,
as Jason being maybe a little, I would say, I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know if I would use insecure as a word, but I would
yeah,
say,
it's
when I had a
yeah,
chance to talk to him a couple times before Absolute Superman dropped, the first time being at San Diego when a lot of the news was coming out. And I could definitely sense a little bit of nervousness that he was
yeah.
worried. I
That's
think
what it
not
is.
I think
Nervousness,
he was
not insecurity. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, he was happy with it as a Superman fan, as a huge Superman fan. He was happy with what he came up with. But nervous, you just don't know ever how it's going to be received by fandom, and we know how toxic internet culture can be. And so I think it's kind of the same thing. He probably feels a lot more secure and validated with his take on Superman, the absolute version, because it has been so well received. But as you know, having read issue 7 already, I've read it as well and really enjoyed it. Issue 7 is completely different.
Yeah.
Again, we'll review it when it comes out. We don't want to spoil too much, but I will. But it's a spotlight issue on Brainiac. I don't think that's giving anything away. Solicit say as much. Superman, Kal-El, he shows up very little. So if I would say somebody who, if they don't like his take on Brainiac. If they don't like the absolute version of Brainiac, it's going to be an issue that they're probably not going to enjoy as much. So yeah, I could see him being a little, that nervousness coming back a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm sure he'll hear from us and check in when that issue drops. I want to say, is it next week? It's either next week or the following week. I think it might be
Yeah,
next week.
I think it's next week too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in any event, a couple of other things I did manage to pick up five Dave Stevens covers. I fantastic find. I've almost finished all my Dave Stevens covers. I got about six left to complete my Dave Stevens collection. So I was really happy about that. Spent about 350 Canadian getting higher grade Dave Stevens covers, filling in the gaps. And yeah, and I got another additional. The $2 bins were fantastic. I mean, I I was just finding key comics like nuts, like crazy. It made me wonder if the retailer didn't realize what he had in the $2 bins. That's one of the advantages of collecting as long as I have it, and my memory seemed to be pretty good. So I could, hey, that's a key issue. That's a key issue. So I
Yeah.
had a right
Yeah.
great time, and yeah, so many things. I picked up a lot of great books. Uh, just on just meeting different creators. I could probably do a separate video on it. I don't want to take up too much time talking about it here. But I met so many creators there. We had it was in the BMO Center in Calgary, Alberta. It's a newer building. It took like 3 years to build. So it flowed better. The traffic was better. It flowed. It was easier traffic. So it was less. It felt less
Yeah. Was there a
crowded.
lot of people? Was there a lot of people though?
Yeah, it was. I believe so. I believe the numbers were on par with past years. Yes, it was. It was a very good. It was from the Thursday to the Sunday, and even the traffic, even the parking was cheaper. It was much better. We went to St. James Place, a nice Irish pub with Tim Sheridan, Jeremy Adams, and Richard Grayborn, uh, and by fluke, I actually managed. They needed a host for the DC panel with Jeremy
Oh
Adams
yeah.
and
Yeah.
Richard, and just for the people watching, this is hilarious. So at the last minute, I'm asked to moderate a DC panel, and of course, I haven't really done much of that before. I've moderated a panel before myself, and then I sort of like watched Chase did it in Phoenix last year. I watched you do it, Chase, and so I'm literally asked on the fly. I don't even know what this panel is about. And it's so funny. So I'm sitting there, and Jace, you're kind enough. You're literally Googling from wherever you are, and you're telling me by via text what this panel's about, trying to help me
Yep.
along. And anyways, how it went was it was Jeremy and Richard and Trevor talking about reimagining talking about mythology and about how they come up with ideas for stories, and it was a nice crowd of about 20, 30 people who asked a lot of questions, and so I didn't have to do much, fortunately. Richard and Jeremy and Trevor, they're pretty good at it's not their first merry-go-round, so they're pretty good at
Yeah.
doing that. So but it was so nice. I'm just a fan, and there was media there taking pictures. Um, so I was in the pictures with them. So people are going to wonder who's that doughhead at the end. But I'll just hey, that's me. That's Comic Boom. So, anyways,
That's hilarious.
yeah, it was really nice, and it was the first time I ever had a creator companion badge. So I got, it was nice to, get free food, free drink, and get in, no lineups. I mean, there's, those badges. I'm not accustomed to having them, so boy, it's sure nice to have them. I tell you what. But anyways, fantastic time, and yeah, and oh, and by the way, it looks like I actually have I have free tickets for San Diego, and I got a hotel room as well for San
Oh my
Diego.
God, are you gonna be in San
I do.
Diego?
So I literally so Trevor actually has a hotel, and he's instead of putting it back to the lottery, he doesn't need it anymore. He can save it. So I have until the end of May to claim it, and so I can have me and another guy, another roommate. It's gonna, I don't know what the hell you're doing where you're staying, but I mean, the only thing I'd have to buy pretty much is my flight tickets, and I'd compensate for the. But I mean, I got a badge for
Oh
San Diego
my
apparently.
God.
I don't
Oh,
know,
my
but I'm just
liver hurts already. I mean, but here's the thing. Like honestly, I say that, but I mean, it's so busy, it's so crazy. I'm running around. I don't know. Like and the after hours is where we'll be able to hang out. During the show, which is
Yeah,
fine because you haven't been, so you'll be able to go and kind of do kind of the fan thing and experience, and we can meet up here and there. Um, but the after, I'll be able to get you into some parties and yeah, wow. Everybody's like, yeah, can you talk about that offline? Yeah, we'll take it offline. We'll talk about it later.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. That's yeah, if you could make that work. But I warn you, Rocky, you're gonna if you go this year, it's gonna be like you're gonna be like, I gotta have to go every year. I can't. It's one of those experiences, man. Once you go once, you never want to miss it.
Well,
So
I don't know.
anyway,
I've heard different stories. You know, I've heard different things. Even some creators I've
well, see,
spoke
that's
to
the thing
said,
though. But you go with me. It's one thing to go as a fan, and you don't have access to that much stuff. And I know I sound like a total like entitled, you know, totally first world problem kind of guy here to say this, but if you go with somebody that's linked to the industry like Trevor is or myself, and you get into those industry parties and the after hours stuff, that's a lot of times some of the parties I get invited to are it's open food, open bar. You do those kind of things, and it's like, I mean, that's the fun, hanging out with Ronda Rousey or whomever,
yeah.
whatever other celebrities happen to be there. So anyway, let's get to the books. How did you feel about the week overall? Only 5 books this week, so we'll touch on
Uh,
them all, albeit briefly.
Honestly, they were okay. They were none of them really hit me all that hard. I thought World's Finest was probably the most interesting, but a lot of it was just it was kind of a meh week. You know, it wasn't. It feels like it is. It feels like a fifth week, and I'm glad there's not a
Yeah,
lot of books. But yeah, it's. I mean, we'll talk about it. None of them are bad. You know, I just thought none of them really
yeah,
stood out as really blowing me away.
yeah. So I mean, easy to do a top five. I didn't rank them because there's only five.
Yeah,
And I don't even have any idea what my book of the week is going to be. It sounds like you might have an idea already, but
yeah.
we'll kick it off with the question all along the Watchtower, chapter 6. Alex Segura is the writer, Cian Torme on art, Romulo Fajardo Jr. on colors, Willie Schubert on letters. I thought it ended in a satisfying way. It did end in such a way to say, hey, it's just the beginning, more adventures to come of Renee Montoya as the security chief on the Watchtower. Again, I think it's a role that suits her. Like I said before, Alex Segura, it's his favorite DC character. It shows a lot of thought put into the series. For me, the highlight, the thing I'll remember from the series is not necessarily her being leveled up as a character, but showing that she can. And Alex Segura sort of did this in a meta way because it's like she doesn't have superpowers per se the way a lot of these other Justice Leaguers do. So can she really go toe to toe with some of these villains? With can she really fight along the Justice League? Does she really belong? Um, and she was asking herself. She had some self doubts herself, so it was a bit meta. She takes on Cyborg Superman, and it never felt in the story like it felt in the story at times like she was overmatched. But certainly when we come to the end here, it didn't feel like she was a Mary Sue or it stretched credibility the way that she defeats him because she doesn't defeat him alone. She defeats him along with other members of the Justice League Unlimited. She frees them from the mind control that he has over them, and they sort of defeat them as a team. She uses a Green Lantern ring, which again she has a lot of willpower. That makes sense. So I thought Segura did a good job of making it very believable what happens in the story, as you would say, a high degree of verisimilitude. So I really enjoyed that, and it's always great to see Renee Montoya. I think she's a fantastic character. So overall, I enjoyed it. I thought the Cian Torme art was great. It was a little different than I expected, being that it was kind of a mystery or sold as a mystery, but we did find out pretty early who the villain was. Um, and so it didn't. I was sort of expecting it to have a little bit of like mystery crime noir, but on the quote unquote streets or hallways of the Watchtower as opposed to being on the streets of Gotham. But it wasn't that. This very much felt like a superhero book, even though the argument could be made that Renee Montoya herself is not a superhero. So I really enjoyed it, and I would really, I really hope we see more of Renee Montoya as this security chief whether that be in the pages of Justice League Unlimited or somewhere else. Because it'd be nice to see her, even though it sounds kind of mundane, but almost a procedural, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Take her
I
out of
agree.
Gotham, but still give me a little bit of the street level in some way. That'd be a kind of a tough balance. Has to be the right story. But I just like her as a character. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, I thought it was done very well. What do you think?
Well, yeah, and it's interesting how with the Justice League Watchtower tower now being essentially, it's almost like a mini city. That's kind of how Alex Garris set it up. It feels like a mini city, and so in an ironic kind of twist, this is Renee Montoya, who's a very grounded character that we're used to seeing in more intimate settings like Gotham City. She's now in a mini city of the Justice League Watchtower, and so I think she's ideally suited for this because she is that well, that's one of the reasons why the Trinity asked her to be on the satellite anyway and gave her the job they gave her to find out what who was sabotaging the Watchtower and the Justice League, and she's a perfectly grounded character and she's well suited for it, and especially for this sort of like mini technological city of this Justice League Watchtower. I like the quieter moments between her and Batwoman. I really like that. Kate Kane. I think that there's that Alex Segura did a good job sort of, you know, juxtaposing the superhero moments which you need because this is a superhero title. This isn't Gotham Central, so you have to have a lot of action. We had a lot of action, but we had a lot of action interspersed with a lot of Renee Montoya reflecting on her past, and so pulling in and making references to her past in a way that didn't drown the story out in esoteric stuff, confusing the reader. It was additive, and I think in many ways, at least I'm hoping, and I'm sure DC is hoping that it'll create more interest in Renee Montoya. And I would say for anybody who enjoyed this series, and if you think the question is even slightly interesting, if you think Renee Montoya is even slightly interesting, trust me, it's just a touch. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Go read some of her Gotham Central stuff. Google it. I mean, she's been in. I mean, we reviewed her in a lot of more well grounded, intimate settings of Gotham City. She's a fantastic character, and it's really nice to see her sort of join the superhero universe, and that's what this join the superhero club, so to speak, and that's what the series has, I think, successfully accomplished.
Yeah, I agree. Up next, The Power Company Recharged, issue number one, written by Brian Edward Hill. Ton of artists here. We have Kari Randolph, Aletha Martinez, Norm Ratman, Ray Anthony Height, Studio Sky Tiger, listed as the artists, and then Emilio Lopez and Alex Guermas on colors. Anvil Design handles the letters. I mean, that's a ton of artists, so it's not, no surprise to say the art does feel a little uneven at times, but not so. It didn't pull me out of the story. The styles weren't so crazy, and from one page to the next that I noticed it, unless I was looking for it. So it kind of is what it is. I
Yeah,
expected this to feel a little more tied into the most recent Black Lightning series that Brandon Thomas wrote, because this is sort of a sequel to that. We saw at the end of that Black Lightning, Jefferson Pierce agree to work with Josiah Power in kind of reviving the Power Company. I thought this was going to be written by Brandon Thomas. I was surprised when I saw Brian Edwards Hill's name here. I'm a fan of Brian Edward Hill. That being said, this didn't feel necessary. I don't know what's to come with the Power Company. I don't know if Brandon Thomas is writing it, if Brian Edward Hill is writing it, or what have you. Maybe Hill is writing it, and this is like a bridge between the two, and this will make a little more sense once we get the regular Power Company. But we have the Signal, who we saw in that Black Lightning series. We have Black Lightning. We have Vixen. Um, didn't we have? Was there one other hero that we had?
yeah, you got him on Signal, Batman, Vixen. I think I think that's
Yeah, I
it.
guess that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking there was one more, but well, and Black Lightning himself, obviously.
that's right. Yeah,
Um,
sorry.
but for the amount of pages, I mean, this is like a 38-page book. I mean, not much happened. There's a serial killer loose in the pages, or in the streets of Atlanta. Um, this It's the Jace Fox Batman that comes in to kind of solve it. He's a loner, doesn't really want to be working with a team. He feels tricked by the Signal, that the Signal asks for his help, and then it shows up and says, "Hey, you didn't tell me I was going to be working with anybody. I work best alone." So it felt a little. The word I'm going to use is clunky. It felt a little clunky. Again, partly probably because it didn't have a cohesive art style, even though the everybody's style that works is pretty close. And like I said, it didn't pull me out of the story. But even the story itself, um, it just felt a little clunky. So it's not a bad book, but it's not a book where I think somebody's going to pick up this one shot Power Company and go, oh my God, I can't wait for the Power Company series. But that being said, you don't have to know anything. You don't have to have read the previous Black Lightning series to pick this up and understand what's going on. You don't have to have read the previous Power Company series. So in that way, if this is something that people pick up for free I'm in there free comic book day, my local comic shop. I like the cover. It looks cool. I'm going to give it a try. Great Black Lightning cover or what have you. Um, it might attract people to pick up, the Power Company if there's a Power Company series coming. I could see that because it is easy to understand what's going on here. So it
Yeah.
is new reader friendly. If not, like I said, just a little clunky, which it surprised me being that it's from Brian Edward Hill. Usually his stuff is very streamlined. So anyway, what are your thoughts on it?
I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this more than I thought I would, because uh, my favorite character is Vixen. Yeah, for some reason, I just think Vixen is. I didn't expect to see Vixen in this series, in the Power Company. I still think the name Power Company. I'm not a big fan of the name Power Company, to be honest. In fact, even Chase Fox Batman does not like the name Power Company in the story. So I don't know if that's maybe the writer speaking through the character, but uh, I thought I didn't find it too clunky. I enjoyed it. I like the fact because it as if there was some clunky, I like the fact that Jason Fox Batman is a loner. He likes and it shows and he does work alone. He prefers working alone. He's very good at finding serial killers, getting into their mind, and he explains why. But meanwhile, because they're battling the Sons of, there's the Sons of Liberty, which are being, uh, which is related to the Black Lightning series. I personally wish I'm already interested in this in this group of people. Again, I don't like the name Power Company. That name I don't like, but I'm interested in this group. I'm actually more interested in this group than I am in Birds of Prey as a group, to be honest. And which is weird. I don't even I find that very interesting. I like the story and I like where it might be headed. I like the fact that Vixen's in it. I'm surprised Batwing's not in it because Vixen and Batwing sort of have a relationship that was established in one of the anthologies that we reviewed. I don't know, 6 months, a year ago. I can't remember anymore. But it's interesting. I wonder if is Vixen gonna get it on with Chase Fox? I mean, she did the Batwing. Now she wants to do the Batman. So I don't know. But anyways, I had fun with this issue, and I give compliments to Brian Hill because he wrote a fairly self-contained, a good, entertaining, self-contained story in basically under 30 pages. So I thought it was pretty good. Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
Yep, I just realized. Yeah, it's challenging trying to get lighting in the car or whatever. So, anyway, it is what it is. All right, so I did get a chance to interview Al Ewing about his Detective Comics annual. Hopefully, everybody got a chance to check out that interview. I think it dropped on Monday. So that's the next book. There's 3 acts, or basically 3 chapters in it. Each chapter is by a different artist. So Stefano Raphael, John McCrae, and Fico Ossio are the artists. Then we have Lee Lowridge, Triona Farrell, and Ulysses Areola. Uh, Again, each artist does 1 chapter, and then each colorist does 1 chapter as well. And then Tom Napolitano on letters. So I do encourage everybody to go listen to that chat that I had with Al Ewing. It was fun to hear his thoughts on taking on Batman. I gave him a lot of compliments for not, falling into that trope that so many writers do. If I only get a chance to write Batman one time, I'm gonna use the Joker. I may never be able to, tell another Batman story. So I'm not really going to say much here about my thoughts on it because you can go listen to that interview and hear what I thought about it. But I did enjoy this. It was a lot of fun. I'm an Al Ewing fan, and the fact that he got to take Batman to his stomping grounds across the pond, as the Brits like to say, and have Batman stomping around York, which is pretty close to where Al Ewing lives, is a lot of fun. So I thought this was great. Um, I know that Tom Taylor was originally supposed to write it. I guess his schedule didn't allow, and so Al Ewing I thought did a fantastic job. And to be clear, it's not like Al was like, "Oh, I have to take the story that Tom was going to tell and make it my own. No, Tom knew kind of early on that he wasn't going to have time to write it. So this was Al, from start to finish, and I thought he did a fantastic job. So, what are your thoughts on it?
It was really good. It deals with a guy, a billionaire tech guy ends up being murdered. Cody Morse is his name, and the central conceit of the story that Al Ewing put together is that he does the message to Batman is don't solve my murder. The guy dies, but then basically leaves a message in Buzz, don't solve my murder. Well, why would a murder victim not want his murder to be solved? That's an interesting question. So right away, right from the beginning of the story, you're intrigued, and then you find out something that he developed some technology. He developed something. He discovered a secret, and it's if just think quantum mechanics, think time displacement, think Armageddon, and you can imagine what the potential dangers of this particular secret of quantum slash time slash technology that Batman ultimately ends up discovering and putting the pieces together. And of course, somebody wanted this tech, and then the investigation leads him to London. And what Al Ewing does so well is, number one, he did educate me on London dialogue, because I certainly wasn't aware of some of the dialect of England. So and it's explained, and so he helps the he helps the reader along a little bit with some of the phrases in London. And also, just the story itself, I thought was very good, and it hints at something that Batman now ends up with something, with a potential secret weapon that only he has, and the details of which you have to read the story to get. But I like that this plants a seed for future writers to maybe play with, given how this story ends. I think it's very clever. I think it's very good. I think it was very well done by Al Ewing, and I actually I'm inclined to say that I believe I'm going to remember this story. And it wouldn't surprise me if in the near future we might have something build on it, because I think it's actually a pretty cool concept, the story itself. And I encourage people to pick it up. And I don't always say that about annuals, but I actually think that this is worth checking out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Al would definitely revisit the idea of that weapon, that concept. If he ever did Batman, I think it's something Zdarsky would probably use as well. Jeremy Adams, perhaps. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see if it does show back up at some point. All right, next up we have Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 7. Jeph Loeb, the writer. Dave Johnson handles the art for this particular issue. Dave Stewart doing the colors. Richard Starking on letters. This felt a little bit like a transitional issue. Didn't feel like a whole heck of a lot happened here, except at the end when apparently um, we have a situation where, hey, is it Catwoman that's actually the second holiday killer here? Like, what exactly is going on? It things are not, all that they appear to be, which is interesting because that's sort of exactly what the first Long Halloween story, the fact that it really is a mystery. But to a lesser extent, it's not as jarring here because the Long Halloween has always felt like a sort of an Elseworlds tale. And everything set in that world, whether it be dark, what is it? Dark, not, is it Dark Frontier? Dark Victory. The original Long Halloween story, the Dark Victory story, this follow up, it feels like it's separate. It's in its own sort of universe, um, but kind of similar to Hush 2, right? Where it feels like not, forget about everything that's happened in the meantime since Dark Victory. This is sort of picking up. So in that way, I've said in the past, for this particular issue, for past issues, the story has felt a little more modern. That's not the case with this one. This one definitely felt more in sync with sort of the tone and the vibe of the original Last Halloween, or Long Halloween rather. Um, like more so than it, and I think part of it's Dave Johnson's art. Dave Johnson's art, like he really, more so than anyone else, really gave me a more of a Tim Sale vibe than anybody else had, especially with the shading that he uses. So, yeah, not a lot of forward momentum in the story, but fantastic art. So, again, I mean, just like the original Long Halloween, this is a story that's going to be best read in a collected edition. So, which is not really a surprise for anybody, but Anything to add? Any thoughts on it?
Not really. I just I agree that this is definitely going to be something that reads better as a trade, because the story itself, it feels well. It the central conceit is that every issue there seems to be another suspect, so there's another layer added to it, and then I'm assuming that the final issue will be pulling all the pieces together and Batman figuring out on the basis of all the clues. Um, it's Poison Ivy doesn't seem to be a reflection of her current iteration, but I guess not that I should expect her to be, because this is basically a sequel to the original. So I'm not really sure. Continuity is really not important for a project like this, because wisely they have this as a separate series, The Long Halloween. They should have done the same thing with Hush too, quite frankly. So it is. You're absolutely right with Dave Johnson. He's done a really good job, just like the other artists do, really pulling you in. This is absolutely a fantastic tribute to Tim Sale. I think Dave Johnson's art is frankly the least, in my view, it looks the least like Tim Sale, but there's something about it that has the feel of Tim Sale, and I say that as a compliment, because I don't see them having similar artistic styles, at least in my mind. But I mean, I can't help but to be impressed reading this, as I have been every issue, because it does tend to pull you in. There is a sexiness, I have to admit, to Dave Johnson, the way he draws Catwoman there, just the elegant. I love the purple outfit. I mean, I love so many Catwoman's outfits, but the purple one, that Jim Palante area always has a special place in my heart, and Dave Johnson seems to be channeling that quite well. But yeah, no, it's another soundly good chapter in the Batman Long Halloween series.
Yeah, 100%. All right, last book we're going to talk about in detail. It's We Are Yesterday, Part 3. It's in the Batman Superman World's Finest 2025 Annual #1. The script is by Christopher Cantwell. The plot is Mark Waid and Christopher Cantwell. Art is by Dan McDade. Colors are by John Kalish. And then there's I don't want to call it a backup story because it's kind of a co-feature. It's maybe not quite the same amount of pages, but it's definitely no backup. And it's a John Stewart origin story in a lot of ways. That's the Way of the World, it's called. It's written by Morgan Hampton. Clayton Henry is the artist. Neeraj Menon on colors, and Steve Wands on letters. As far as the main story, I'm enjoying the We Are Yesterday story. I did not enjoy the art in this issue. I didn't feel like it was really up to par with the story that Wade and Christopher Cantwell are telling in terms of the epicness and the fun of it. I thought the first two chapters art was fine. This felt like a little bit of a step back. Um, Being that a lot of the other members of the Legion of Doom, that the modern day Grodd is reaching back through time and pulling them forward. I love the scripting by Cantwell because these aren't the same. This isn't the modern day Joker. This isn't the modern day Sinestro, and they shouldn't talk like their modern counterparts. And the way they talk, the dialogue, the scripting that he gives them makes them feel like old classic Challenge of the Super Friends cartoon characters, and that's how they should feel. So I really, really enjoyed that, and I wanted the art to kind of match that in some way, or feel dynamic in some way. But it sort of feels like they weren't sure what to do. Do we go for all the dynamism? Do we go for more nostalgia? And they kind of got stuck somewhere in the middle, and they didn't do one or the other particularly well. So the art ended up feeling just a little plain to me. The action in the art, the excitement in the art just wasn't there. Um, but overall, I did enjoy the story, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. We're halfway through the We Are Yesterday story, so I'll give you a chance, Rocky, to talk about the first story, then we'll talk about the backup.
Yeah, I enjoyed it more than you, and I didn't mind the art. I actually enjoyed the art more than you too. I actually I was quite entertained by this, and I want to give I'm always giving all compliments to Mark Waid, uh, and bringing back Python S, I Python S, whatever. She's a character that's supposed to be dead, but he's resurrecting her. What a clever way to do it! What a clever way to bring back characters that have died in the DC lore, to bring him back in a storyline like this. She's the wild card here, and she's the wild card that Gorilla Grodd is using to ultimately help him plan to defeat the Justice League in his time travel shenanigans here, which is, I think, very clever. And also because most of us, I mean, Pythoness is a character, past character that has apparently died. I don't remember this character, so that's a good thing because it's a new character that, or it's an old character that's new again. So I got a reason to go back. I just love the like the old days. I can go back and I can Google it and I can check out and maybe pick up a back issue and what have you, and I can have more fun with it that way. And that's what Mark Waid does so well. He makes the old feel new and fresh again and putting a new spin on it. And we're getting brand new stories out of it while at the same time sort of revitalizing old stories or revitalizing how we might interpret past stories if we're so inclined to go read them. But we don't have to go and read them because he's putting modern day spins on past characters and stories, and it works so well. Uh, I think the art's great. That one of my favorite pages on the art is there's a full page with Aquaman with Plastic Man, and Plastic Man himself stretching actually forms all the panels itself, and I think it works quite well. And anyways, I artistically I just want to I got to give compliments to the forgive me, compliments to is it McDade?
Dan
Wh
McDade, yep.
Yeah, McDade. Yeah, he's done a really good job there. I was entertained by this, and this is the one where it's going to be between this one and another one. So I'm struggling now a little bit regarding my picks of the week already. So, but in any event, I enjoyed this. I quite enjoyed this comic. But there's another story in it which you can talk about.
Yeah, I thought Morgan Hampton did a fantastic job of sort of coalescing the origin of John Stewart. You know, the original version of him growing up in the projects and pulling himself out of the slums and going to college and being an architect. Then we had the modern version where he went from high school to the Marine Corps and was a soldier for a long time. This marries those two together. He does go into the military and then he comes home and goes to college to get his architectural degree. So it marries those two together. But this is the first time that we've really gotten to look at John as a child um, and gotten into his thought processes and the things that he's gone, went through and what have you. And so it kind of humanizes him a little bit more. It gives great context for, recent stories of John Stewart, whether they be from Jeremy Adams or um, Philip Kennedy Johnson when he did the War Journal series. Basically, we're talking all post Jeffrey Thorne, who who basically made John Stewart a god and took it too far. And so I thought this was just really done well by Morgan um, to strike the right balance to give us some insight and some context into who John Stewart is. I mean, for a lot of people, John Stewart is their Green Lantern because he was the Green Lantern in Justice League Unlimited, and that was their first exposure. So um, I'm Hal Jordan's always going to be my Green Lantern, and I have a soft spot for Kyle Rayner just because of the '90s and what have you. I was really into comics in high school at that time or what have you. Um, so John's always going to be at best third for me, but I've come to appreciate John Stewart as a character a lot more post Jeffrey Thorne's what some of these other writers have done with him, and I thought Clayton Henry did a fantastic job on the art as well. So I really enjoyed the backup. What about you?
I really enjoyed the backup. In fact, one of the things, just a quick reference that when Philip Kennedy Johnson was scripting, when he wrote Green Lantern War Journal, initially, everything when John Stewart created his sister Elliot from the construct from the ring, initially, I didn't quite, I didn't quite feel it because I came to feel it because PKJ did some great character work of his connection to his sister. But I thought Morgan Hampton did a fantastic job in just 2 pages. We see just the loss of John. We feel John Stewart's loss with his sister, how he feels he failed it. He failed to protect her. And I you really feel that, and maybe I feel it even more because we've read Philip Kennedy Johnson's fantastic John Stewart War Journal run, where his connection to his sister is, exemplified, and his relationship with his mother is exemplified, and how he created that construct of Ellie out of his ring. The background here, it's explained so well. This is a very elegantly told, easy to follow, really good origin of John Stewart told in a very straightforward manner frankly, we need more of these types of little snapshots of these characters. I thought this was absolutely excellent, and and just how he was kind of how he, I'll be honest, I I fully admit I didn't realize Jon Stewart was crippled when he was younger. I didn't know that. I if I did, I plumb forgot that aspect of his character. This is just goes to show you, it doesn't matter how long you read comics, there's stuff you forget. So I really appreciated this. It was like, oh yeah, I guess that was the case. So yeah, very well done, Morgan Hampton, and yeah, he's doing a great job. He's clearly, I think, learning some pretty good ropes. Jeremy Adams is a pretty damn good influence on him. And, I hope we see more from Morgan Hampton going into the future.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he did a fantastic job on the Cyclops miniseries that he did. Not Cyclops, sorry, Cyborg, the Cyborg miniseries he did.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's
so
right. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've known Morgan for quite some time, so yeah, I've definitely become a fan of his work. All right. Well, in terms of collected editions that are out this week, because that does it, as I said, kind of a smaller week. There is a Green Lantern Silver Age Omnibus Volume 2. It looks like we've got 1,000 pages even for $125, and it collects the first volume of the Green Lantern series, issues 36 through 75. We also have a Batman and Robin Volume 2 trade paperback. This is the Grant Morrison Batman and Robin series. It collects issues 7 through 12. So, again, it's just a regular trade paperback collecting 6 issues. So 168 pages, $20. And then finally, there's an All In Saga trade paperback, which I think very smart of DC to release that this week, because it's going to be in shops for new comic book day, or free comic book day. So it collects Absolute Power #4, the end of that Absolute Power story that directly leads into the All In Special, which is also here. uh, it also includes Justice League Unlimited 1, so we see the formation and the satellite, and then we've got Batman 153, Wonder Woman number 14, and Superman 19, which again are all the final issues of those series right before the Absolute series launch. So it's basically everything you need to know in that happened in the main universe that led to the formation of the Absolute universe. So um, let me get you the price on that one. Uh, yeah, $20. It's 192 pages. So again, very good timing for DC to have that out. Also, if you do make it to your comic shop for free comic book day, like I mentioned, spend a little money. You probably should spend a little money on Planet Death Zero, which is out this week as well from Bad Idea. I've been, again, just super busy this week. I haven't had a chance to get my review up, but hopefully it'll be up tomorrow. Not only did I, get a regular issue, which it's in newsprint, everybody, even including the cover. It's worth it just to smell the comic. It's only $2.
Smell of the week.
I mean, it's fantastic art from Thomas Fiorello. I mean, fantastic. And then I spent, way more than I should have. If you saw my picture on social media, uh, I mean, it's a 1 in 500 triptych cover that Joe Quesada did. I sprung for that, well into the triple digit cost, but I just had to do it. I don't usually splurge on those kind of things, but I had to for Planet Death. It's just an incredible, incredible book. And then the main series is going to kick off the first week of June. So if you haven't read any Bad Idea stuff, if maybe you didn't have a store in your area that was carrying the books, they're going through regular. They're in the regular pipeline now with Lunar distributing them. There's no restrictions. All the comic shops can order them or whatever. So really encourage everybody to check it out. You'll know right away if this is a series that you want to jump on, because it gives it's just fantastic. It's action and gorgeous art right from the beginning. So check that out if you're so inclined. All right. Well, I'm still not sure what I'm going to go for book of the week, Rocky. So you go first, and then I'll make up my mind.
Yeah, well, for me, it was between it was really between World's Finest, uh, and Detective Comics with Al Ewing. Uh, I love what Mark Waid's doing. I love that third chapter of We Are whatever We Are Yesterday or whatever that the name of the storyline is. But
Yeah.
I love what Mark Waid's doing, and so I had a lot of fun with it, and I really like the new character, the Pythoness. So I'm intrigued by that. But just because for Al Ewing for just thinking outside the box like he did, and I really appreciate what he did. He's sort of planting some seeds for. It was a really good story, and I think he just edges it out for me. So I got to go with Al Ewing's Detective Comics annual #1.
Okay, fair enough. Kind of between those two for me as well. Those are definitely the two that I enjoyed the most. Um, and yeah, I think I'll go the other way. I think I'm going to give it to World's Finest with this caveat. I think that the We Are Yesterday story is really fun. I didn't particularly enjoy the art a lot in this issue. However, I'm going to pick World's Finest, but a lot of it on the strength of the John Stewart work from Morgan Hampton. So I'm picking World's Finest. You know, definitely a nod to what Waid and Cantwell and McDade did for sure, because it was entertaining. But for me, the highlight of that issue is the Morgan Hampton John Stewart story. I enjoyed that much more than I enjoyed the
Yeah,
We Are Yesterday chapter.
that's a good
But
point. Yeah,
you know, I really am comparing apples to oranges because Morgan's story, you don't need anything else, right? It completely stands
yeah,
on its own. The We Are Yesterday, you know, that's 1/6 of the story. So you know, very well may be when all is said and done, if I had you know, a singular book with Morgan's story and I had all 6 chapters of the We Are Yesterday, the We Are Yesterday might beat it out because it's going to be,
yeah.
you know, more complex and just a fuller, more realized story because it's so much longer. Um, but yeah, credit where credit is due. I thought Morgan, he just did a fantastic job. So good job, Morgan. You're continuing to impress, my friend. Fantastic job. I hope he stays on Green Lantern Corps with Jeremy for a long time, or even better, have Jeremy move on to something else and let Morgan fly solo, because I think they're doing a fantastic job on that book. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, apologize everybody for it being so late. Don't forget to be sure you're checking this out on Rocky's channel where it comes out every week. Normally on late on Tuesday, early Wednesday. You can check it out. Comic Space Boom ! On YouTube. Be sure when you're there, like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content comes out. All the other reviews and whatnot and stuff that comes out for the Comic Source is over on the Comic Source YouTube channel. Just do a search for Comic Source on YouTube. Again, like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. I know I've slowed down a little bit on the interviews. I've just been really busy with stuff, but those will pick back up, as well as I know I'm behind on the indies, but that's coming as well. My plan is to have a big comic book weekend this weekend with hitting my LCS for new comic for free comic book day, and then get multiple recordings. I've read a ton of books when I was traveling on the plane and whatever. I'm caught up mostly on my reading for indies. I just haven't had a chance to record the episodes. So hopefully I'm going to get at least 2 or 3 of those out this week for you all to check out. Hopefully you'll be jazzed about comics after hitting up free comic book day at your local comic shop as well. Also, don't forget, if you don't want to head over to YouTube and watch the Comic Source channel because you're working out or you're driving the car or you're on the subway or whatever, don't forget that all this content is also available audio only on your favorite podcasting app or podcasting feed. Just go to wherever you get your podcast, do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe, and you can get the audio only versions of all of this. So we'll be back in just a few days, being that this one came out so late. And I haven't looked at the next week of DC books yet, but I have been reading ahead a little bit here and there. So yeah, hopefully not a ton of books next week, but I really don't know because I haven't even looked. So we'll have to check that out. But anyway, thanks for joining, everybody. We appreciate the support as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.